And good day to everyone. Hope you're having a good day. I am. I was just out in the sun, got a bit of sun, so enjoyed it after. Said Bart actually finished his live stream a bit earlier. So I said I might as well just go out and enjoy a bit of the sun, and just did that for a while. Came back in, got myself a oxalate juice, a bit of water. I'm ready to go. Oh, just waiting on Jared, So my milk mafia mate is absent at the moment, so he will be around, all guns blazing, all milk blazing. So looking forward to seeing him soon. Anyway, let's get started. Yes, take off your blinkers. Always early. Where the fuck is Vane? That's the only thing. That's what everybody's been saying. Where the fuck is Vane? He's been missing in action for some time. Yes. Something's painful. Ooh, ouch. It's like forever. Oh, you mean well, you guys just turned up too early. Oops. Almost happening. True believers. Yes. Bowerbird, yep. One of my regular, with take off your blinkers, one of my regular trolls. I do have trolls as well that unfortunately don't troll other people, troll me. Luke's actually parading Brazilian style. Yep. Richard's always the realistic person out of every one of you, going 30 minutes, guys, and he's sad. I needed to get that extra sun, mate. I needed to get that extra sun, all that sort of those UV rays, that extra sort of health promoting stuff, as they keep telling me. Anecdotes of one. But Bart knows me too well. He goes, he's probably still asleep. He was right. I sort of dragged myself up. I'll go, I was at the time, oh shit, I better get up. When it had a shit shower and a shave, and yeah, the typical stuff you do in the morning, and then try to get a bit of sun. Pulling the curtains back in the naked sort of au naturel sort of stand up position at the window. Luckily, there's sort of clinics down on this side, so there's no one to see anything because they're basically not operating on the weekends. So I can get away with a bit of yes. I mean, oh well, if they want a perv, they can go for it. Makes them happy. Don't really care. Oh, some people love the black. Yes, me too. Actually, I had when I was growing up as a teenager, it was, navy blue and black were most of my T-shirts. My mother used to say, aren't you going to get anything different in colour? Where nowadays, I do have colourful stuff and colourful shorts and stuff like that. And I haven't gone for the polka dot yet, but, I mean, we're progressing towards that. As senility hits in, at a later age, I'll transition to polka dot. Oh, didn't realise it was D-Day. Oh, yesterday. Oh, yeah, yesterday. Yeah. Yep. And what is Lucas seeing? So you guys are having a philosophical discussion about colours. Wonderful. You guys are real bored. You're really bored, weren't you? Somebody's reading a lot of random stuff. Reminds me of my misspent youth. Soccer, cycling, weightlifting, and consuming too much alcohol, and reading all sorts of varied things just to confuse myself as a youngster. Oh, see? If I started earlier, take off your blinkers, would have actually missed the beginning. So guys, you have to be considerate. You got to get those T-bone steaks in, and sounds good. Raw, good milk. Yep. Let's see, one advantage being in Western Australia or Tasmania or a few other places where you can sort of access this sort of stuff. Unfortunately, other people on the mainland, like relatives of mine that are in Melbourne and Sydney, have a lot of difficulty accessing those sort of milks, unfortunately. Now, I better cruise down a bit and see whether I can get any questions. Yeah, still waiting on him. He's probably still crossing the border. Damn fucking Canadian criminals. He's part of the milk mafia. Some people running around, you'll pass out in the end. Just abusing your body far too much. Yeah, we know, Yeah. Nexie's not here yet. Sure, yeah, Grandpa's not here. But some of you girls I know get off on Grandpa. What can I say? I'm not going to say anything more before I get into real trouble. That doesn't take much for me. What's a good blood test to get for someone who has really good insurance and has been on carnivore for 7 months? Symptoms are worsening, short-term memory loss, started before carnivore. Well, in terms of short-term memory loss, there could be a number of factors. It may not even be your diet. It could actually be pollutants in your environment. So have you sort of assessed like an environmental assessment of your either work environment, which I don't know what it is, or because all of a sudden onset, if it's only been over a very small amount of period, it seems like, slow, gradual decline is usually to dietary or stuff like that, lifestyle and dietary, but more rapid, in a much more shorter amount of time, usually indicates to me that there is some sort of environmental factor that at play. So potentially, chemical, potentially something in your environment. So I would look into that as a serious note. Lead potentially. Things like mercury, all sorts of things. So there are protocols to deal with that. I mean, you can go and look at my the one that I did about selenium in regards to fish and all that, and that chelates selenide, chelates on a non-reactive diet, which is sort of a clean diet, but at the same time, you need to find out what exactly you want to eliminate the exposure. So yeah, you need more information pretty much in that regard. I can't really answer that comprehensively way. If you want to shoot me an email, once you know more about it, I can basically give you some pointers, some ideas of how to deal with it. But I need to know more. G'day, Bo. So, Lucas, Harry, do you think a 3-day fast would help switch to a far lower carbs in the diet? Thinking of fasting before implementing large changes. Fasting is much harder. Look, if you can do it, do it. Yep. Look, 3-day fast will deplete glycogen and will put you in a far more ketotic state. Yep. But if you're to do shitloads of exercise, weightlifting, long walks, I remember doing a 26K walk, some weightlifting and stuff like that. I was able to deplete glycogen down to within 24 hours. My ketones had shot up massively. They were up in the 3-point-something millimoles. So, and sugar was in the toilet, 3.9. So, while normally it takes 3 days, but you can actually push yourself within 24 to 48 hours, depending on how much effort you want to put in depleting the glycogen. So there are two strategies in that. Go hard, and I usually do that, but I'm a pathetic, person for punishment. And that literally kicks me into really high levels of ketosis, so its transition is really fast in that regard. But if you're not prepared to go that hard, then I would say it will take anywhere between 48 to 72 hours, depending on your metabolic rate, depending on your activities, and depending on your level of insulin leptin sensitivity, which can vary amongst people depending on how deranged they are. It can take them much longer than even 72 hours. So, you're pretty young, pretty fit. You don't really have any underlying really severe health issues or whatever. So, not doing much activity or very little activity, you're probably in 3 days. Yep. Another trick to utilize is to cut all carbs, up the fat for a couple of days, quite a lot of fat, creams and shit like that. And what that will do is that will, deny your body sugar, give your body fat. Your body will slowly start transcripting enzymes to basically utilize the fat more and more. So less will end up in the bowl being excreted. And you can do that for a couple of days, and then eventually you can move to the next stage of going hard fasting and pushing yourself into a ketotic state, making yourself more fat adapted at your young age. That's much easier to do. And, it's like the younger you are, it's the easier, just simple as that. You look at babies when they're born, even though they're having mother's milk, which has got quite a bit of galactose in it, which is glucose, 4 steps for all milk sugars to turn into glucose. They do not turn into fructose. They turn into glucose, okay? That's why it's not as problematic as things like honey or things like honey's not too bad. It does, if you get raw honey, it does have some other beneficial stuff in terms of antimicrobial properties and stuff like that. So if you've got a sore throat or stuff like that, I've got Manuka honey and I use it for sore throats, rather than actually getting, those cough lollies or whatever. So I don't use that sort of crap. So I use Manuka honey, which is a more natural thing. and I'll make sure that I eliminate milk for those days, for the simple fact to keep the carbs down so I can get the benefit in terms of my throat. It does have a number of benefits. There's been studies that I've looked into honey. I mean, my dad's youngest brother, he actually has bees and honey. He produces it in Greece, and I know quite well. He's done a lot of research. I've looked into the research. It does have a lot of benefits in terms of some health promoting features and antimicrobial, antibacterial, but at the same time, it's not something that I recommend on a regular basis. It should be, if you're going to use it, it should be seasonal and sparingly, so not a lot. But it's not something that I consume. I prefer milk, raw milk, and getting my little bit of sugar in the form of glucose because it's less glycating. As I said, fructose will glycate 4.7 times more than glucose. So glucose is much lower in glycation. So if you're having a small amount, it's a blip. But if you're basically having a lot of fructose, it's problematic. And it's the worst type of carbohydrate in terms of deuterium. So deuterium actually is a growth factor. And obviously, honey will have this growth factor in it because the honeybees want to grow, so it's not the best in that regard. So, yeah, but that's a side issue. Anyway, on to other things. Been jumping all over the place. Okay, but hasn't zinc? It's been about magnesium that Harry said could be possibly helps against corona when contracted. Yep, zinc. Look, zinc normally doesn't get into the cell very easily. It needs an ionophore to transport it in. So all these basically like hydroxychloroquine and all these other, tonic water, whatever, what they are is ionophores. That means they turn that key and create and provide access to a positively charged ion, which is what zinc is, to get into a cell. And so you don't want to put all these positively charged ions into your cell and affect replication, because replication, to transcript enzymes for a whole lot of biological processes in the body, you need this replication mechanism to work. You don't want to inhibit it. But at the same time, if you've got a virus, you want to prevent it from hijacking the system. That's why you use these. You don't use regular sort of zinc supplements. You use these basically the chewable or lozenge type, and so you're actually swallowing that. So it's in the upper respiratory system, and you're having the ionophore, whatever that is, that you're going to use. There are safer options than hydroxychloroquine, which has some side effects. So I wouldn't use it. And the one that I actually utilize, I'll just find it. Give me a sec. Find my orders. Oops, need to sign in. Give me a sec. Bear with me for a short while. And this is the one. I'll just share my screen. This is the one that I actually purchased. So this is my ionophore. Has some other usages, but in that regard, it doesn't have any other shit, just sort of cellulose, stuff like that. So no other dangerous crap. It's a bioflavonoid, and it helps the respiratory system, the sinuses, all these sort of areas. In that regard, it actually upregulates glutathione to some extent in those sort of areas, so it's helpful in that regard. Plus, it acts as an ionophore, so I've given I don't have the container here because I've actually taken out about 30 of them, and I've given the rest to Dad. So my father's got the rest in the container that I purchased, and Dad will basically utilize that. And I've said to him, leave it there in your cupboard, and when you get symptoms, you start taking one of those and 4 of the chewable lozenges of the zinc. So you want to get that in immediately at that early stage. So you swallow one of these, and then you start chewing the I told him, give it about half an hour. So that gets into the system and circulates. Then basically throw in the 4 zinc supplements, just chew them, and do that for a couple of days. For 1 week. If symptoms have not allayed completely, do it for an extra. So what you're doing is you're lowering the viral load by getting zinc into the respiratory system, the cells in the respiratory system, to basically inhibit replication as much as possible. I make sure that he keeps his vitamin D status up, because that's the most important. So vitamin D, get out in the sun. If you can't access the sun, use supplements, 4,000 IUs minimum. Keep your vitamin D levels. If you're overweight, fat, and all that, take it up to potentially 6,000 to 8,000 IUs. For the simple fact that you need more, because your fat cells will absorb some of it, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. But the major focus is the vitamin D. And I've actually said to people from the beginning, if you look at all my shows, I've said vitamin D and these 2 just when you get the disease. So, should be getting zinc in your diet as on a regular basis by eating meat. So that shouldn't be an issue. So you don't really need any of this sort of stuff until you actually have disease. And, if you get one of this and it's got 90 tablets, well, it's until 2023. And I said to Dad, well, next year you'll get the flu and you can use it then. So, because it's a coronavirus, so it acts the same thing. So I said to Dad, keep it and just basically use it for when you get the flu. And he's got plenty of chewable, because I actually went and bought all these. They had them on special, $5, a whole lot of packs of 120 chewable. And pretty much I bought him so many packs he's got for plenty of years. So he'll be fine with any respiratory infections in the future. So that's basically how I covered his requirements. Simple, and you don't want to be basically inhibiting normal cellular function by putting in shitloads of zinc at this stage. If you're not sick, I've made that quite clear. This ionophore you only use when required. You don't basically this crazy stuff, everybody taking hydroxychloroquine with the side effects and all this other shit, when they're not sick. I'm going, why? You're not fucking sick. Why are you taking medication? You should just be eating good quality meat, good quality food. Do that, you'll be fine. When you need it, that's when you take it. We do not want to be putting a whole lot of undermining our own ability to transcript enzymes. Remember, we need enzymes, all these little nanomotors, exactly, Luke, all these little nanomotors that go around our body and do a whole lot of biological activities and functions. Very important. So do not forget. Anyway, So based on discussion a bit when stream 3. No, okay, yeah, I can't remember that far back. Vitamin D. Zinc is only for basically to inhibit replication. So we're trying to keep the viral load down. So once you get it, we want to keep it down. So obviously you want to be wearing, a mask in public, or you want to basically social distance to some extent. So you, especially if you hear somebody coughing and all that, for the simple fact that you don't want to basically put yourself at risk in terms of viral load. The reason why a lot of doctors and nurses have actually been dying is because of viral load. They don't have good enough protective gear, and they're getting too much of a viral load in their system. Their body's overwhelmed. Now, if they had a better vitamin D status, they would have been able to cope with that viral load. If they were using this quercetin plus zinc lozenges, they would have been able to inhibit within the respiratory tract. They would have been able to inhibit the actual replication in those cells within that part of the body. So ultimately, we don't want it spreading throughout the body. There are ACE2 receptors in many parts, heart, lungs, liver, in all sorts of areas you've got ACE2 receptors. So, if it spreads, it can actually utilize a lot of different organs and a lot of different areas, and it's much harder. So the whole thing is to nip it in the bud right at the beginning. Keep the viral load down, keep the replication down, give your provide your immune system with sufficient vitamin D, because that vitamin D is what prevents a cytokine storm and regulates your immune system. It controls it. It also provides, remember I said vitamin D receptors around the T cells and the B cells and the killer cells. So part of that immune response that you want at that early stage is you want the soldiers to be all ready and, full of vitamin D receptors out there, literally clubbing all these viral, particles coming into your body and keeping it down and giving your immune system time to learn to recognize the enemy and then transcript appropriate antibodies as a response. And once you've got the antibody production up, you're fine. Your body will start fighting successfully. And that's the whole thing. It's about, using a defensive method of, vitamin D to provide strength to your immune system. Selenium-rich foods as well help. And then using the zinc and the ionophore, which is, the thing that allows the transport of positively charged ions, which is what zinc is, into a cell to stop the replication being hijacked. So that's pretty much it. Anyway, no fucking idea where he is. Yeah, I know. Bloody old people. Unreliable. God almighty. I love heard shakes that from when Harry went, he's being naughty. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, my trolls, inform me that I, about my ice cream addiction. Yes, yes. I do have other naughty things that I do, but I suspect I'll be kept, if I go into those, I'll get banned by YouTube. One that doesn't have, if you're going to buy zinc, it should be a chewable or a lozenge, and it should also have no citric acid, because citric acid affects its function. So yes, non-citric acid chewable zinc lozenge. So I don't know what they'd provide or they have in your part of the world. I'll just show you the one that I got. So that's the one that I got. Okay, so you take four of those. So the equivalent is 3 milligrams. So you know, obviously 4 is 12, which should give you enough. And these are chewable ones. There's the actual size. The little bears. But for kids, the dosage is the same. But the good thing is, because they're for kids, the quality, that means they have to be safer by law in Australia. So it's the same. The quantity is the same as the adult one. The difference is you just take more as an adult. But I'd rather buy a product that's actually been created specifically for kids because I know it's going to be safer for me as well. Just a bit of a hint, way of, yes, unfortunately, in our world today, we do not, a lot of the companies, I wish they were a bit more ethical. Unfortunately, they are not. So, Harry, at Bart's house, we were talking about fasting. I had a real hard time to go over 24, 26 hours. I fasted once for 44 hours. I was very cold and could hardly fall asleep and all that. Okay. I don't get cold at all. So maybe your thyroid is not up to scratch. It's probably it. I usually say, if you're not getting enough zinc, you're not getting enough selenium, you're not getting enough iodine in your diet, then you're going to be suboptimal in your thyroid function. And then when you try and do something like a long fast and all that, it will be much harder. I don't get cold when I do long fasts. It's like no difference. But I consume foods that you're supposed to be within 100 to 200. I'm about 130, 150, 160, 170. So my sort of amount of iodine sort of varies. And I've left comments about iodine before. I'm not going to go back into it. I'll do something specifically for iodine and show the foods and all that specifically. Actually, I'll utilize one of my comments that I put on Kate's, one of Kate's videos, and I've got all the actual foods and everything, really a lot of detail there, and I'll just use that to create a little video. So to just go into that. So if you got your thyroid properly in a good nick, then you're not going to have these effects at all. So yeah. So sort out your nutrition before you start fasting is basically what I would say, and your sleep and all those other factors. So they're more critical. Sort those out, and then fasting is much less of a arduous task. Yeah, me too. I sort of had moved from lower carb, keto, things like that, to carnivore. Transition was much easier because your insulin is very low, so you're not going to be dumping a lot of electrolytes out and stuff like that. If that's why I say it's much easier to transition. Even Bart actually said it quite clearly. If you're going to go holus bolus into carnivore immediately, you're going to have some issues. So maybe transition is a better option. What's the rush? But if people want to go the hard way, it's their body at the end of the day. I'm not going to basically argue against people wanting to do it like that. So be it. Yeah, exactly what I said earlier. Thanks, Richard. And probably has been asked before, but how important do you consider eating organ meats on carnivore? Um, Depends. Some people it's more important, like people like me, because I have certain genetic SNPs, like choline requirements. So eggs and organ meats are very important to me. Some people have less of a problem in that regard. But I can tell you, most Europeans have a high level of choline requirements compared to many Asians. So I would say the percentages would be 2/3 to 70% of the population would probably need a bit more in terms of nutrition from organ meats. But that's based on the genetics, on choline, the genetics on a number of these pathways that afflict a lot of the Europeans in that regard. So, where homocysteine is a bit of a different issue altogether. And if people would bloody watch that little vid that I actually made, not many people have watched it. I'm quite surprised, Anyway, um, I wish more people had watched it, but they haven't. So, and it just basically shows that all these gurus and all their bullshit about, take all these fucking supplements, stick a probe up your ass and all this sort of stuff to get better. And they just milk the system and make shitloads of money. And there's quite good science. Sort out your riboflavin status. All these MTHFR issues go away. The other pathway is the choline pathway. Certain people are affected by that, like myself. Fix that. All goes away. Not difficult, guys. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years out there with no naturopaths or supplements. So I would say if you're eating a mixed carnivore diet of seafood, organ meats, muscle meats, eggs, some dairy and things like that. If you don't like dairy, maybe bones, soft bones and stuff like that, bone broths and stuff, you'll get that sort of mix of nutrients that your body requires. So not complicated. And if I was going to, as I've said to people, citrulline is for my blood vessels, but not required if you have no cardiovascular issues that you're dealing with. You'll get enough arginine in your diet from meat to basically provide enough enos, nitric oxide synthesis, for vasodilation of your arteries. But, and there's my choline supplement. It's all aminos. That's all I supplement really. But the one that I'll be supplementing for life is taurine. My father supplements it and I supplement it. Simple fact, taurine declines with age. And it's basically an amino transporter. It also lowers blood pressure, but it's an amino transporter primarily. And our capacity to synthesize taurine declines with age. Simple as that. So if you want longevity, you want good to prevent sarcopenia, you want to be able to uptake aminos and utilize them to build tissue and maintain tissue, you need more taurine. So you're either going to have to eat more meat and hope that your genetics are good enough to basically transcript, or you can supplement it. I don't believe in a lot of supplements for the simple fact they're high in deuterium. That's an issue. But I do consume a number of low deuterium foods that balance it all out. So, that's a side issue. Anyway, on and on. I'm going to switch cold turkey somewhat. Okay. One for punishment. Good. Well, we've heard that about you, Luke. You do like a bit of punishment. Next, you'll be asking to be whipped. Bad boy. Damn Brazilian boys. wild, very wild. And I suspect Shell and quite a few of the other ladies are going to get very, very excited hearing that sort of stuff. Okay. Harry, do you know any good sources of salmon in our wonderful country, Tasmania? You're not in Tasmania. Oh, I feel for you. Yep, Tasmanian salmon. Look, there's wild caught salmon also from the Antarctic waters, and I'm trying to think now. It's the bottom of uh, the bottom of Argentina, Patagonia. So from that sort of region, there's wild caught. So that's a pretty good source. And the waters down there are pristine. So, because there's very little industrialization in the southern hemisphere. There, I believe, also the southern part of New Zealand. There's also southern part of Tasmania, both wild caught and also farm raised. The farm raised stuff down here in Tasmania isn't as bad. A lot of people say, well, they put that sort of colouring. Well, actually, I know somebody that actually works in the industry. It's actually astaxanthin that they actually put in, because a lot of the farm stuff that's out there, they actually don't get enough in terms of their feeds. And a lot of the feeds down here are like fish based, so they're not like the sort of pellets you get in northern hemisphere. So they're not as bad, the farmed stuff down here, in terms of fatty acid profile. Plus they add the colouring that they use down here. It's basically astaxanthin based. So it's a natural thing and an antioxidant. So because they're not eating enough of those nutrients, they don't get enough colour, and the colour that they're actually putting is a natural sort of thing from astaxanthin, which they get from, I'm trying to remember, what is it, crabs? I have to ask my friend Sean. I think crabs or some sort of animal that they actually get it from. One of the seafood stuff that naturally these animals get it. So it's not as bad. So it does vary. Farm stuff varies around the world, unfortunately. So it's you have to do your research. Okay, I found that that heavy resistance training stops my hunger, yet unable to fast long. Yeah. Look, women tend to struggle with fasting far more than men. For sometimes there are hormonal reasons for it. It's a mixed bag. There may be some underlying issue as well. It's something that you have to really investigate. It's not very easy to sort of, and I don't do consultancies, because I just don't have the time. So you may have to consult with someone else like Bart or Pim, to look into some of this sort of stuff. Why? To understand it much deeper, you need to do tests. It's just the nature of the beast. You just can't do it any other way in that regard. But yeah, I don't know. Is it psychological? It's hard to say. As I said, without a consultancy, it's very hard to sort of. I'd be speculating all the way. Diarrhea. Okay, so you're basically, you don't have a lot of weight on you, a lot of fat. That's obvious. Then that's a given. Why are you fasting? Just time restricted. Time restricted feeding is all you need. You'll still get some autophagy with time restricted feeding. You don't need to fast in that regard. If you've got low body fat, no, because it's going to be much harder because of energy deficit, and especially in women. Fat requirements are much higher, I've said, in women than men. I'll say it again. Women have higher fat requirements or energy requirements than men. So men, fine, you can do 1-to-1. Women, not fine. You need more energy, 1.2 to 0.8 in terms of fat to protein, or 20-25%. And I would say if you're at that level, lean, I would say punch your fat levels up to 80 and keep your protein levels down to 20, unless you're trying to basically build muscle. Then it changes. That's a completely different ball game. If you're trying to, then you may need to add the egg and milk sort of a option in there to basically give you more of an anabolic boost to build more muscle in that regard. But yes, it's that's probably your reason why you're struggling. Energy deprivation, much harder if you've got low body fat. Yes, so that's a simple one. I've had a Roger, the Randall cycle through dairy to put on weight. Okay, yep. Look, the difference is compared to if you use fructose, you will generate like honey and stuff like that, or a lot of fruit. Which I actually told Frankie I didn't. I actually, it's one thing that I'm saying. Well, why is Saladino and why is Frank actually using honey? And why I know Frank's also using, and I actually sent him the that recipe on bodybuilding stuff like that, and a whole lot of other things. So I don't know why he's basically using honey and fruit, because you end up, you don't get that, the old Arnie look where you end up big, bulky, muscular, and very lean. You end up getting that like a pot belly, like that. You see a lot of bodybuilders today who eat a shitload of sugar together with, yes, they grow tissue, but they also grow a bit of a belly. So they're very, very muscular with a belly on, so it's not what the old bodybuilders did. The old bodybuilders did the milk and the raw milk and basically the shitloads of eggs, and they would create smoothies, and they're actually supplements and stuff like that. I've been promising to fucking do that video as well. I was doing the methylation thing, and I want to do one on cortisol as well. I'll see how I go, because tomorrow I've got the day off because it's a public holiday, so I'll try and get at least either the cortisol one done or the exercise one done, and try and put it out there sort of to help in that regard. I mean, you can actually combine dairy. You can consume dairy in a whole lot, but if you consume very little, below your caloric requirements, and your cells around your body have not been sort of replete, they're not full, they're not going to downregulate those receptors. So your GLUT4 receptor, your CD36 receptor will still be activated. You'll be still pulling in nutrients. There won't be any resistance at the actual cell. So there will be no engagement of the Randall cycle. So it's, you really have to push up the calories to achieve that. So once you push up the calories, you will get into that. But I will definitely focus on dairy and eggs if you're trying to build tissue and good quality tissue at the same time. So yes, we don't want to be storing fat with fructose. All right, drink has been made. Stir is up. Harry talking in my ear. Oh, I'm happy. Another comment. Let me go further down and try and get a question. So what is Luke? I'm a bit worried about the freshness of meat in Brazil. You guys produce shitloads. You're worried. I mean, there's plenty of pastured stuff in Brazil. So what's the issue? I'm surprised. But anyway, yeah, you may have to do a bit of research in your country. Do less of those push-ups, which Bart gets you to do, and go out there and do a bit of research. Your grandpa is a friend of the local beekeeper. That's where I got my favourite raw orange and blossom honey. Sounds interesting. As I said, I'm not against raw honey, but at the same time, I wouldn't go spastic or crazy over it. Yeah. So do not abuse the honey. Oh, wonderful. StreamYard just kicked beyond a certain point. What was this? I heard glycogen can taste sweet. Glycine. Glycine. Depends on your supplements, mate. Here he is. You coming on, mate? You guys are into too many sweeteners. Alcohol sweeteners and all sorts of shit. Who would have guessed? It's a shock. Not really. I hope it's the diet ones. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. It's good that it's the diet ones. That's what I meant to say. Confusing myself. See what you do to me? God, woman. Yeah, I've never been into sodas, to be honest. Doesn't really do it for me. You got to be very careful with. You could end up overdoing it. It's best to get it from food because there's a sweet spot. You know, if you get too much, it can be a problem. So be very, very careful with supplementing iodine. You may end up getting too much and creating hyperthyroidism and some other sort of because Hashimoto's can be from too low or too high, things like that. So you can actually create other issues. So you got to be very careful with that sort of things. Yeah, I bet it is. Carbonated milk. Bloody hell. What will the Brazilians think of next? Carbonated beef. No wonder there's issues with the beef, you know. Gives you, you know, you end up burping all the time. Erp, erp, erp. That beef didn't go down well. What can I say? Hey, I'm not a veg. I'm not one of those that Jewish researcher Walter. I'm not like Walter Kempner. I'm not like him. You had to whip those poor bastards on his on his diet. God Almighty! I would have said, "Please let me die from my kidney disease." Oh, we're all nice and friendly here. Some of us to be too friendly. Clean water is important for fish. Yep, who would have known? Yes, good comment. Yes. But there's also some estuaries and some rivers around the world can have high levels of pathogenic microbes and all that. And so, like, I know that oysters in parts of America can be very dangerous if consumed raw. You can die from some sort of a bacterial infection. So you got to be very, very careful sourcing in some parts of the world, or maybe just cook it. Yeah. Even in Harry Stream, gonna have to start upping my trolling game. Yeah, mate, you got to pick up this crowd can be quite. They even troll me on other sites. Can't get away from them. Say, oh, subscribers? What subscribers? I've just got 300 trolls after me that subscribe to me as well. Nothing good like fresh Alaskan fish. Yep. Yes, cold waters up there. Very nice. I'll take any thanks. I don't know for what reason. Got no idea, but I'll take it. I'll accept it. You're welcome. Okay. No comment. Before I get into trouble. Yes. We know. Or I know. But not say too much. So you're demonically possessed when you have alcohol. Okay. God, that's an easy way of doing it. You go into a special place. Come on, throw a bit of alcohol in there. Once a month I party. I somehow doubt that. A person like you, Shell, you'd be partying nearly every week, at least. Am I? Not really. Yes. If I had consumed alcohol today, which I haven't for a long, well, not long, but when was the last time? The last time I actually had was with the guys at work. So it's a week and a month and a half, nearly 2 months now. And it's probably about 3 months. Yeah, it's not that long. But prior to that, I'd actually had a long stint of, I think, about quite a few months. And then I sort of was consuming a bit at my sister's place. And so it's a sort of an on-off thing. But I've kept it away from it. It's probably the only thing actually working from home that's been really good. I haven't had any alcohol for the last couple of months, which is good. But it was only on, on Fridays or Saturdays, stuff like that, and only a couple ciders, stuff like that. Yep. 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 That is exactly right. And that's why I always say to people, do not take whey. Let me say this again. After you've actually exercised, do not consume whey protein. Say it again. Do not consume whey protein, because it's got double the anabolic effects of glucose. So it just powers on into your bloodstream, and within an hour you're hungry again, and it can be slightly catabolic. So what do you use? Casein, which is a slow thing, but I wouldn't use a casein supplement either. I would basically use the old bodybuilders sort of egg and steak, and in particular egg and milk sort of preparation. And what it does is it's slow release. So a casein supplement will basically keep you in muscle protein synthesis for 4 hours. And this milk type, egg type combo, and I'll do a little video about it. I've been meaning to, because I've been emailing people whenever they ask me. They actually email me and ask me for the info. So I'll have to do a damn thing soon. And that will actually sustain up to 6 hours. So, and that's what the sort of thing you want. You want more muscle protein synthesis for a longer period of time. So you're building muscle. But yeah, so that's the reason why you feel, because you're tearing down muscle. When you do exercise, you're tearing down muscle. You need an amino pool in the bloodstream to provide, in your body, you've put to basically then to be utilized. And that, it gets stored in different parts of the tissue and to be uptaken. But at the same time, you want something that is a much slower release. So it's going in and being absorbed and utilized over a longer period of time, 4 to 6 hours. Where a lot of the supplements, they probably only achieve about, the like pure casein, probably about 4 hours. And whey, it's only within about an hour. So it's, as a pre-workout, using whey is a different thing. That's fine. Half an hour before going into it. So you're getting all that anabolic sort of that insulin, the doubling of insulin compared to glucose. And then you're hitting those barbells and all that sort of stuff, and doing the heavy weightlifting and stuff like that. And as a consequence, you'll use that extra energy. You'll be able to go for a bit longer. And then you want something which is a slow release, like casein, or even better, eggs and milk, raw milk and cream. So you're providing the energy and you're providing the aminos. And I'll do that little video because I have to. Everybody keeps on asking me about this. So yeah, to deal with that, and that's the old bodybuilder secret. Arnold Schwarzenegger, all these old bodybuilders use these sort of techniques and these sort of preparations that they utilized. So if you're going to do it, you might as well do it like the old bodybuilders did it. They got better results without any all this other crap that can be dangerous to your body, especially the roids. Not good. What's this? Calories are same. OMAD, intermittent fasting, right? It's about the window, not calorie deficit. Correct. Yes, it is about the window. The longer you or time restricted feeding, to be more precise, but people call it fasting, intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding. Everybody's got their own. There is no set terminology. Absence of food in the strictest definition is fasting. But, I would call it more time-restricted feeding because you still got glycogen there. You're not in a ketotic state in order to upregulate substantially your levels of autophagy and all that, which is the sort of therapeutic side of fasting. So, yeah. So I have a definition where I say 3 days or less, depending on your activity and all the other stuff that I said earlier. Then it is what I call therapeutic fasting or autophagy-driven type fasting. And then the other type of fasting where there's still some autophagy, but, you don't recycle your, 3 weeks, you recycle your immune system. 3 weeks, you get into deep autophagy. 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 days, 72 hours, you end up clearing out a lot of debris, repairing a whole lot of mechanisms and stuff like that. So it's quite beneficial in that regard. But time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, whatever you want to call it, still has benefits. Some autophagy benefits, which is cleaning up the junk out of the cells, and some repair as well. It's not as substantial as a 3-day fast or deep ketosis, but at the same time, it's beneficial in that regard. I do anywhere between 1 and 2 meals a day. And the second meal usually tends to be a snack or a smaller meal. And if I do 1 meal a day, I may drink more fluids like, a second glass of milk or, something like that. Or I may have jelly and cream like last night. Yeah, I know it's only 100 calories, which is fuck all, but that was enjoyable. But yes, I've now acquired a jelly and cream addiction. Luckily it's only 100 calories a night, but it's yeah, I know, go from one to the other. Never learn, do I? Could be worse. Could be beer. And could be pizza. But Picani pizza's okay. That's just all dairy-based, mozzarella and, shitloads. That's actually quite nice. Actually, I've done one. I enjoyed it. Yes. Takes a bit more effort. If you're going to do them, do multiple ones on the same day. So create a lot of preparations and put the rest in the fridge. So you're not doing it every single time. You have to, you end up like feeling like you're running a pizzeria. Oh, I need to do my pizza again. Yeah. Fuck that. I do not. I know the guy you're actually talking about. I cannot remember his name. Yep. I know yeah. Sorry. Somebody Google. Yeah, nowadays in particular, because of too much fructose. They don't cut properly and they have too much fructose, so they end up with a lot of visceral fat because of the fructose. So, yeah, I've been discouraging people away from fruit because of fructose and honey for ages. Even though I've got honey, I've got a Manuka honey from Brunei Island, but at the same bloody time, if you're going to get sugar, you should get sugar in the form of glucose. It's less glycating and less problematic. You will basically use it as, for one, for the glycogen stores, 2, to get that sort of increase in sort of size that you get in your muscles because you're retaining a bit more fluids due to the glucose. So that's the sort of stuff you want to do, and you want to put that in the muscles, and you don't want to put it in the gut. If you actually have fructose, you're putting it in the gut, so you end up with that sort of effect. The old bodybuilders had these big muscles that were slightly bulging because of that extra fluid and glycogen. So that's the sort of look you want if you're going to do bodybuilding. Modern day bodybuilders do not look at all like the old bodybuilders. Yeah, say no more before I get into real trouble and I end up with a whole lot of bodybuilder trolls on my site. Then again, some could end up subscribing. That's true. Yes, it's been a painful growth for me. Okay, Harry, does dehydrated egg make for a good ingredient on the shake? Yeah, look, as I said, it's not something that I consume. I'll have eggs and all that in the normal form and all that, pastured eggs and stuff like that. Bodybuilding is nothing about health. That's why I don't do it. I used to as a youngster, but bodybuilding is all about building big, muscular bodies to impress the chicks. That's what it is. And to win competitions if you're into that. I did it for the chicks, but if you're into the other side, yep, so yeah, but it's not the, yes. So when I do that vid, I mean, I've sent you the information where you can actually buy those formulations of milk powders and stuff like that and combine it and create that thick type. It looks like oats, but it's basically the sort of bodybuilder's version of the old-fashioned oat looking, but it's basically milk and eggs, and it's got a bit of cream in it as well. So it's quite thick, quite rich, quite calorie dense, and quite amino dense as well, which is what you want. So, but if you're not trying to build big muscles, you just basically want to maintain good, muscular strength and stuff like that. Do some weights. You don't need to do excessive. Eat a species appropriate diet. Get good quality foods into you. Make sure that you're mixing your different carnivore sources of food, so you get a lot of mixed micronutrients to prevent deficiencies. Anyway, because a meat only or steak only diet over the long haul, depending on your genetics, will give you some level of deficiency or suboptimal, as I usually say, so I don't scare or annoy other carnivores, suboptimal results. Yeah, look, if you can get access to a farmer in a rural area, that's another option. So, you would need to sort of consider investigating that in that regard. Okay, and I've lost my track again. Yeah, what about oysters? It's 2 weeks diarrhea. Yep, yeah, you got to be very careful where you're sourcing them. Very careful. Down here, I just have them raw because with a bit of lemon juice on them, and not an issue. Never had an issue. But that's Tasmania, pristine waters, very clean and all that. He's really deluded, isn't he? The vegan diet seems to have caused more delusions. He wants to become a Superman. Wonderful. The vegan superhero. Oh, God. Let me throw up somewhere in the corner. Yes, oh, Paul. He's got issues. Poor kid. The roids must be affecting his brain synapses. Citric acid, vinegar, or lemon on food to get some sour flavour. I prefer lemon, to be honest. I love lemon. I can literally just gnaw into a lemon. So from a young age. So yeah, you can have my card back, my carnivore card back. I don't give a shit. I'll still use lemons. I had yesterday steak and halloumi, and that was really nice. And I put lemon juice over the steaks. Exactly. So plus the benefit, you get a bit of vitamin C as well, additional. Not that you need it, but anyway, on a carnivore diet, it's not an inflammatory diet, so less of an issue. And uric acid does enough. Yeah, look, you can actually make your own. I have in the past, but sometimes I get a bit lazy. And so I've had to switch to my jelly and cream option. I've had a few cheat days. Yes, I did. So with ice cream, that's inevitable. It's going to happen. I know. I don't fight it because I know I'll lose. Ice cream versus Harry. Ice cream always wins, unfortunately. Anyway, but I don't over abuse it. Usually, I'm going to have an amount which will be about, can vary. Some ice creams can vary from about 15, just one like a pole, from about 15 grams of sugar up to about 22, 23 grams. So I'm still in low carb mode in that sense. And it just means on that day, I will not have any milk because I've had my other treat, my ice cream treat. So, yes. And I make sure I get good quality ice cream. So, yep, you pay more. Yep. But it's not as if you're having it every freaking day. It's once now and then, now that I'm addicted to jelly and cream. Again, like my keto days, that was my main go-to in my keto days was jelly and cream. Fucking hell. So I reverted back to that. Tried and tested. It works. It makes me happy enough to continue. Plus, it's got very little carbohydrate. It's all fat, and it's only 100 calories, so you can't go wrong. Okay, I don't consume whey. Period. Good. You don't need to. Pork, eggs, cheese, foods, heavy resistance training. Yep, you just basically I would train fasted, and then I would have all that sort of food after to rebuild with good animal nutrition. That's what you want. You can actually get lactose-free milk. They do sell it, so that you have to be careful. Some of them have got like alcohol sweeteners in them, which is another issue in itself, because you're still basically, when you take it, you're having that insulin effect and the body's going, so that's the other issue with those alcohol sweeteners. But on the other hand, there are some that are just basically they've fermented away. The other one is a kefir type milk. So you can get a kefir milk that just has all the probiotics and all that. As long as you don't have any gut issues, no permeability or anything like that, you're fine. So that's the other option. Yep, that's right. Yeah, you don't want to overdo the dairy dairy is much more anabolic. So if you're sedentary and you're not really pumping iron and stuff like that, dairy may not be for you. So dairy is really good to combine with eggs if you're trying to basically build tissue. But if you're not, keep away from the dairy or lower it just down to. And when I'm doing keto, I strip all the other dairy away. The only dairy that I keep in the mix is basically brie, and brie has, for 100 grams, which is 3.5 something ounces, it's pretty much 0.5, so half a gram of carbohydrate. So you can have 200 grams of brie, which is a lot of dairy. You'll get plenty of calcium that way, and without eating bones or anything like that, or connective tissue or whatever else. And at the same time, you will only get 1 gram of carbohydrate. So that's your best. Plus, it's 100% MK4 vitamin K2. So, yes, a side benefit. So your K2 will be that's a placebo effect. Come on, Richard. Gotta lighten up the situation. Where is that Jared? Bloody hell, he pops in, goes back to his steaks, or goes and plays away with he's playing with his pussy. Bad boy. Yep, you're definitely craving. Yep, the last one's a hazardous one. Oh, not almond milk. Almond milk is like the ultimate in oxalate toxicity or poisoning. They should ban it. It's not fit for human consumption, not even fit for animal consumption. God almighty. Yeah, feed it to the vegans compulsorily. Sterilize them that way. They want to be sterilized anyway. Fucking crazies. Is milk important to eat to get calcium, or are eggs enough? Cheese makes me break out in acne. Well, you may have a lactose intolerance or a casein intolerance, more than likely a casein issue. Could be the casein 1. You consider, for instance, things like feta cheese, which is A2, and some of the other A2 milks that are cheese-based. So that's the other thing you could consider, or just give it a miss. Consider sardines for bones and calcium. Consider, eggs, and make sure you've got sufficient vitamin D status to pull more of the calcium in your diet, because all tissue has some level of calcium in it, including meat. Everything has. If you've got more vitamin D, you will pour more into your body in that regard. So, but depends on your circumstances. I would not supplement. Please don't, because they are problematic. And as I said, brie is probably your best go-to. I suspect if you try brie, because it's got very little milk sugar, and if it's French brie, it will be A2, so you won't have the casein issue either. So if you get a French raw cheese brie, you'll be miles ahead in terms of MK4, calcium, and a whole lot of other nutrients. So consider that as an option. That's what I do in my keto days, or did, and I still do. I love brie, but it's It's fat and protein, which is great. Having vitamin D high at 60, yeah, that's fine. Customer requirements will be able to be low, and the body still, yep. If you've got good vitamin D status, you will have good absorption. So yep, don't worry about it. It's usually people that have got very low levels that it can be a problem, even when they consume quite a bit of dairy. So yes, here he is.
Geez, you're quick on the draw when I join. I got to be ready to go as soon as I click the link.
That's it. I'm not going to remove you. You weren't playing with your pussy and milk.
No. Although one of my cats isn't doing so well right now.
What's the matter?
No, I was just calming down. Had a little spike of anxiety there accidentally.
Okay.
Had a little bit of some like burning plastic smell in my car. Got to get it fixed.
Shit.
Yeah, and just where my breath's kind of tight.
Yes, we've got here the comments about milk and vitamin D and calcium. They're in their own.
Yeah, I'm just catching up on the chat.
Am I? Hey, I'm a humorous teacher. That's why I'm good. I don't do things about roids, WT, you're bad. Nah, yeah, you gotta go to Hench for that. Stench knows everything about roids. So does Harley, Julian Ryder. Yeah, look, it's a struggle. I actually pigged out last night on the cream and the sort of the jelly and cream.
I forgot you were doing that.
Yeah, I've got half there a tub, because I actually do about a litre, or so I get half of it. I use half of it, and it's pretty much half of it. It's only around about. It's just slightly a bit above 100 calories. It's really, it depends on how. If I accidentally put a bit more cream than like the 50 grams, or 50 mils, and I put more than 50 mils of cream, that's when it goes slightly above that. But it's neither here or there. It's marginal. But what I do is I first make my jelly. I leave it in the fridge for an hour, and after the hour, I pull it out. I put the cream in, the 50. So I've got a weights scale, so I just measure it, put it in, and then I mix it up, and it sort of combines, because the jelly's sort of already starting to get some of its form. So it actually binds really well at that stage. Because if you put it before and just leave it in the fridge, it'll end up right on top as a layer of cream. But if you do it within an hour, right after an hour, you take it out and you mix it then in, and then you put it back in the fridge. It basically will combine and become a sort of a jelly cream type, like a custard type thing. So it's nice actually. It's decadent. It's thicker, and it fills you up far more, because it's got this sort of. It probably is the feeling. The volume is no different, but by combining it, it creates this thickness, and it sort of, after you've done like half of that, you go, oh God, I'm full. Where if I just do the jelly and have the cream on top, which solidifies, and have that, I still could go for another round, because it just doesn't. It may be a psychological thing; it doesn't feel as filling. So yes.
If I could buy just cream, I would try it. Like if I could get raw cream.
Yeah. The whole thing is actually getting just cream. You
Yeah.
don't want it, because this
I have to
basically
take
it's
the
got,
cream off of my milk, and that's the best part, and it's not worth it.
yeah, it's got very little carbohydrate, and very little in terms of, we're talking about, it's less than a gram, so it's point something in terms of, and it's only in terms of protein, it's about 2 grams of protein. Ends up being about 2 grams, very little, and the rest is just fat. Because it's the cream that it's sort of really pure type cream, the proper sort of stuff, not all this diluted crap that they sell out there in the supermarket type regular shit.
Yep.
So
the regular
you end
cream
up with
here, unless you pay top dollar for organic cream, even though it's all pasteurized, the cheaper cream all has carrageenan in it.
Yeah, all that sort of crap. It's really bad stuff. But the sort of stuff that I get is just pure cream, and it's grass fed as well. So it's just pure grass fed cream. It's really good, Tasmanian cream, and at the same time, the nice thing about it is that the amount of fat is really high. So in it, and the rest is water, and the minor of the other macros, which is great. So it's a very thick type cream. It's really nice. I end up putting it in my coffee as well. I really, decadent. But as a consequence, I have to be very careful how much. So I usually mix in my coffee a bit of cream, and the rest is my raw milk that I buy separately. So, because that's an interstate thing, the milk, with Tasmania doesn't have any raw milk, and like producers sell, you can only get like goats or lamb or stuff directly from a farmer, So there are places in Bruny Island. Did I say that too loud? Anyway, and yes, and it's good. Look, even my Manuka honey is from Bruny Island, because which is another. It's a really one of those areas where a lot of this sort of raw cheeses are produced, and these raw honeys are produced. It's one of those. It's all sort of boutique-y stuff. They used to. Some of the actual producers sell it in Salamanca when it was still functional. Now Salamanca market's actually shut because of Corona thing. But at the time, it's that was one way of actually getting it, or going to the actual island itself and accessing some of this sort of stuff. It's not very far. It's just you go down to Kettering to the south and get on the ferry and across from there. So it's pretty close. Takes only a couple of minutes to get across. Then you drive where you need to drive, and then you get the evening one to come back across the other side, so be able to go back into Hobart. So we're talking about, it takes to get down there about half an hour to get to the ferry terminal. So yeah, it's pretty close things, so not an issue. Anyway, what's this? Remember randomly asking questions on Bart's stream. Harry answered them. Did I? Probably did. You know me, can't help myself. Okay, I'm low carb and also trying to get my dad to see a sleep doctor. Yes, sleep is really important. I usually put sleep above. I think diet's important, but if you really fuck up your sleep, it really can affect your health.
Yep.
Sleep is one of those critical components for brain repair and everything else. So it's
Yeah, there isn't an equivalent to fasting for sleep.
No, there isn't. Either you get it or you will suffer. If you deny your body sufficient sleep, you will suffer.
Yeah. And it has to be an adequate amount.
ionophores, good to see you. See, I told you, I've got Grandpa here.
I told you I'd be here. Oh, that was a little later than I said.
Yes, postmenopausal and stuff like that. Postmenopausal boron actually helps as well. Selenium does as well. So look, a general carnivore diet tends to have more of these sort of things and tends to help much better. Yeah, can be a struggle for a lot of women. Others affects them far more than so you can be doing all the right things, and there could be other elements. There could be elements in your environment as well, especially when it comes to xenoestrogens that can cause havoc. And a lot of people are exposed, or sometimes exposed without even knowing they're exposed. So from all sorts of sources. So that's why it's really hard to, you've sort of go on holiday, and if you're doing exactly the same thing and it resolves itself, then you know something is in your environment, immediate environment of work or home environment, that's causing it. So it's one way of sort of being able to hazard, is it my diet or is it my environment? And in most cases, when you do the holiday thing, usually come back and you realize, as long as you stick to your diet when you're on holidays. So if you're a carnivore, you stick to your carnivore diet. You do not have indiscretions. So you actually notice the difference between to validate that it's the environment. It's one of my fucking taps. I need to fix it.
I only just noticed that when it was pointed out.
Yeah, replace the washer. Yeah, it will get sorted. Just too many sessions today. I've got another session in the afternoon, so tomorrow I've got a day off. It's a public holiday in Tasmania, so or in Australia to be more precise. So I will pretty much I'll have the time to do it. I will sort something out. You got good hearing, mate. But then again, you're quite young.
Maybe you have a good microphone.
That's true. The microphone is a pretty good microphone. See, Bart's actually got that some sort of hardware that actually he can actually cancel out all the surrounding audio.
Yeah, it doesn't work totally though.
It doesn't work as well. It's through his it's through the graphics card. It's a special type of NVIDIA graphics card that has that capability. But yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's no substitute for a good microphone in close proximity to your mouth.
Exactly. That's precisely it. God. I'll make one comment and I'm going to get in trouble with Mira.
You didn't say no.
I did. I said no.
There it is.
Trying to get me into trouble, aren't you? Bad boy. Bad grandpa. Trying to teach this young whippersnipper some bad habits.
That's right.
So, still, I believe restricting time feeding works. Resistance training is essential. In alternate weeks, I bicycle 30 Ks. It's quite a bit excessive. I know Bart is really against cardio. I tend to have lowered my cardio levels quite a bit from the past. And I'll even lower them more when I get over 65. That's about, 11 years from now. But I still do some walks. I'll do like yesterday with a mate of mine, I did a 12K walk. So I'll still do things like that. Nothing intense. I'll still do some weights, things like that. But I won't do excessive amounts of cardio because it's more. It tends to break down. Unlike look, I don't know your age, but if you're in my sort of age bracket and all that, it's probably not the best thing to be doing, health wise. you would get far more advantage by lifting weights and doing more the resistance training part than too much cycling in that regard. But if you do look at, I know you're in the sort of the Netherlands, so it's quite flat. It's not like here in Tasmania, which is very hilly, and so it's probably going to not be as 30 k's, maybe like 10 k's down here in equivalent. So yeah. So maybe it's not as big an issue for you in your environment, because we always have to consider when we're doing physical activity, in whose environment is that physical activity happening. That can be a difference. How much exertion, what effect it has on the body. Because if you're just basically pedaling a bit and then just letting it cruise, it's not going to have as, it's like you'll be doing far less. But 4 to 5 times a week is quite a bit. But then again, if you're more focused on losing weight, on building muscle, less on sort of the longevity side of things, you can't be, as I usually say to people, you can't be He-Man and have longevity at the same time. It just doesn't work that way, guys. And I'd love it if it did. You got to, because to be He-Man, you've got to push up your metabolic rate. You need to put more nutrients in. You really need to be more anabolic in that regard. And so, I tend to have 2 meals a day, sometimes 1 or whatever. I'm not really interested in having very high, sort of cell division in my body, for the simple fact that the more you eat, the more junk you put in your cells, the more autophagy you need to get it fucking out of there, the more senescence you cause, the more aging. It's, those sort of issues. It's why at 54, I can still have quite youthful looking, skin in that regard. So I'm not.
We're just necking with Harry. Everybody's getting the perspective.
Yeah, perving. You're fucking sick. Yeah.
With regards to senescence and aging, Harry, I would be interested to get your take on the stem cell supplement that Bart is. He doesn't. I don't want to say promotes it, but he advocates for
the stem cell. So I'm not getting any sort of, because I know sometimes if I don't put it in a good enough position, it sort of like has a bit of a bad feedback. So I have to be careful of the positioning. I was getting a bit of that last time when I had a thing with Bart, because it was feeding back through his, and it was creating this like a feedback thing and a noise. And it was
picking
bloody
up from your earphones somehow.
No, it was actually the way because he was using a different sort of program to do it. Yeah, we ended up jumping from one to the other and trying to get Zoom, and Zoom account didn't work, and it's a long story anyway. But it somehow wasn't, my audio was coming through, and it just created some sort of like an additional noise. I don't know why. It sort of, anyway, shit happens. I wasn't sure what was causing it. But then, we had a whole lot of, I had technical issues on my side, he had technical issues on his side, and, just get on with it, get it done, So sometimes it's not easy to sort those things out when you're trying to get things done and the time frames and stuff like that. So, okay. I just lost my spot. Great. Wonderful. We'll just go to that. Augusta, sounds like Tasmania, near Harry. would also be nice. Yes, it definitely is a nice place down here. Bit on the cold side in that regard. My younger sister's moved to WA. She loves it over there. She goes, it's perfect. It's much warmer, not as cold in winter, and that's true. Perth is, but Perth also is, because it's got a lot of desert to the east of it. There's yes, and we know who some of them are. But yeah, it's a sort of, it can get up to, like in summer, it can get up to 45 degrees or higher, like 50 odd well, so we're talking about 110 to 120 odd or stuff like that. So it can be quite hot, different parts. So I'm roughly translating. So I know some of you trolls are going to say, he didn't translate Fahrenheit to Celsius properly. No, I didn't. I made a mess of it. That's true. I'm going to go, if I've missed your question, you'll have to just copy and paste it back into the...
Oh, did it jump?
Yeah, it sort of jumped and I'm all over the bloody place. I'm going, oh, fuck it. Too hard. Harry, I got a dental cleaning this week, and my hygienist said I had more tartar than usual and my gums bled more than usual. Any thoughts of these two remarks? Haven't really changed diet recently. No, I'm not really sure. So I don't have any gum issues. I don't have any. So if you're overcooking your food, you may not be getting enough vitamin C, potentially. There could be other things in your diet that actually could be causing issues. Remember, collagen is also not only vitamin C, is also the collagen degrading enzyme regulation, which is D3, MK4, and retinol. So all four have a role with collagen. So it's not one only. So are you suboptimal in the other vitamins as well? So you got to look into that as well. And dental tartar, that would indicate to me an MK4 deficiency, because when you have unusual calcium deposits, it leads back to MK4, to vitamin K2. It's always an issue with vitamin K2. You're not getting enough in your diet. Either you're not eating enough organ meats, or not eating organ meats at all, or not get, sort of foods, eggs. So all these sort of foods, a lot of people that come to me that usually do a steak only type carnivore diet tend to have these sort of issues, and especially when they overcook their meat, because they're suboptimal in the fat soluble vitamins, and then on top of that they compound the problem by overcooking their meat and actually become potentially suboptimal in vitamin C. So yeah, I've railed against people doing the particular a lot of people that are doing, that have been promoting for years the sort of steak only diet. A lot of people have moved away. Even take a look at people like Sean Baker recently. How much seafood that he's eating?
Flounder fillets.
Exactly. How many seafood, and with the roe on it and all that, which is vitamin C source.
Mm-hmm.
So he's shifting because he realizes that just having meat only is suboptimal.
Yeah, he hasn't really stated that he's been shifting for that reason, though.
No, that's
He's just been leaning out for competition.
Yeah. But the thing is, sometimes it's a question of you don't want to lose credibility with your crowd, so you introduce it via stealth rather than actually talk about it.
Yeah, I still agree with the approach for people that want to try carnivore, that you don't need to overcomplicate it for the sake of
Look,
making it approachable.
yeah,
But
look,
I agree that I'm not sure that a steak only carnivore diet is the best way to go.
yeah. Well, complicating it, just saying eat a mix of animal products is not complicating it, because
No.
you're, yeah,
But his specific focus on eat the meat you can afford is what I mean.
Yeah, look, I understand, but sometimes people have some underlying conditions,
Yeah.
and they need to resolve those, and they may need more nutrient dense foods.
Right. Yeah.
It's and this is what let's take an example, Terry Walsh. Now, Walsh, she basically had MS.
Mm-hmm.
She started consuming massive amounts of organ meats to put back all the nutrient deficiencies that her vegetarian diet had actually caused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she resolved those problems by going nutrient dense with a lot of organ meats. She didn't do a lot of steaks. She actually said that quite clearly. She focused on the organ meats to build up, So if somebody comes to me and says, I've got a number of underlying issues, I'm not going to basically say to them, go steak only. What if they got a choline issue like I have?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Europeans do. So where the homocysteine issue is a small amount, like homocysteine, the TT type alleles, which is what I showed in that little video that I did, is pretty much, 6% of Germanic people, 12% of Mediterranean, and people with an Irish, Scottish type background, British Isles, French, people like that. So it's not basically a massive number of people with MTHFR issues. We're talking about, at most, it could be 15% of the population. And as I pointed out in that video, it's a riboflavin deficiency. You fix up your riboflavin, homocysteine collapses to nothing. So, in that regard, and I've about what foods and all that, and it's usually all the carnivore foods that most people consume anyway. So eat your meat, as I point out in sort of in a joking sort of manner. But if somebody has underlying pathology and underlying issues of deficiencies and all that, they will require a much more nutrient dense type foods to correct those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's sort of been my criticism anyway of other carnivores for some time. But anyway, I'm not going to
Well, I mean, it's difficult to understand the literature to know exactly what nutrients you should be trying to increase for exactly what issues, and finding what foods have those nutrients is a little easier. But understanding to the depth that you do of exactly the interactions of what a deficiency can cause and how to remedy it, that's another level.
Yeah. Usually, but to a large extent, I've always said that that when it comes to issues like MK4, that's a very large deficiency in the population, because we don't eat the sort of foods that are very high in MK4. MK4, we don't. A lot of people, sometimes they'll have a few eggs if they're not on the count, but a lot of people sort of shun eggs, shun organ meats which are high in MK4, especially goose liver pate. Sort of the very creamy, rich type cheeses. They go for hard yellow cheeses, but they avoid things like they avoid cheeses like brie.
No, I need my brie.
And then they may consume foods that are very much higher in the other menaquinones, but they don't have the conversion capacity.
I've been enjoying a lot more brie lately, actually, and I got one from Fromagerie that was actually, it's in Quebec, and they don't specify that it's raw cheese, but it doesn't give me the issues that pasteurized cheese usually would.
Yeah.
I know that fromageries in Quebec are basically the only place in Canada that are allowed to use raw dairy to some extent. So I'm
Beautiful. Yep.
hopeful. It doesn't say pasteurized milk on the ingredients; it just says milk.
Yes.
I'm
I
hopeful.
suspect it's raw.
I don't think it's pasteurized. Yeah,
Nah.
because pasteurized milk to me is it's a dead giveaway when milk doesn't agree with me. It's
Yeah.
my sinuses get all inflamed and I'll break out on my face. And
Yeah. There's a big difference between that's true in that regard. I mean, because you lose a lot of the enzymes and you lose all the other components which actually make milk less problematic for the majority for a large part of the population. Now, some people are more sensitive than others. I can consume pasteurized milk; it doesn't affect me at all. I can basically have a pizza and it won't affect me like it affects Bart because I don't have a celiac issue whatsoever. I've actually got very good genes for these sort of things because the Mediterranean genes. So these things existed in the Mediterranean for a very long time, from ancient antiquity. Zeta bread, yes, it's got 10 times less gluten, but it's still been in the diet for thousands of years. So there's adaptation there. There's adaptation to basically linoleic and alpha linoleic acid conversion capacity. I've got very high genetic capacity because a lot of my ancestors would have been consuming a lot of nuts and stuff like that. So I don't have a salicylate problem either. Again, those genetics are very high, like 90% of the Greeks or more don't have, because they have the genetics, where a large proportion of Europeans don't have those. Northern Europeans don't have those genetics, and salicylates, which are also in coconut products, are a problem for them. They will react, negatively. So these are the sort of genetic differences I've been talking about for some time, why you can do certain things and you can't do certain things and all that. And that you really have to, if you're doing a carnivore diet, like I do, a Mediterranean-based carnivore diet, which is based on, I jettison all the vegetables and just kept all the animal products. And I know that I have genetics that are fine with them. But other people may have problems with crustaceans, may have problems with eggs, may have problems with dairy because of their underlying genetics. So I say, look at your ancestry and try and understand where you're coming from on an ancestral basis, and basically incorporate the animal products that your ancestors incorporated. Your body will love you more for that. You don't need to do a Mediterranean style. You need to do basically, whether it's a Polish style, German style, Dutch style, or whatever animal sort of, you will feel much better doing that. And that's why I always say to people, look at your heritage. Focus on eating according to your heritage. You will be happier for it, and you will have less issues. It's really that simple. So my simplicity is really on the heritage side, where other people use the simplicity of steak only, whatever. And I think that is too narrow, and it basically doesn't cater for people's underlying conditions, because if people have this mixed, rich carnivore sort of tradition and they go back to it, the components, the animal components that made up their diet, and they go back to that, they will get far more nutrition, far more micronutrients and all that, and they will recover from any underlying conditions much faster than a steak only. So it's more than just, I want to lose weight. It's more than just, I want to make it simple. It's how will I feel in 1-2 years doing this? How will I feel?
Yep.
And that will really depend on how the food combinations that you employ and use.
I mean, that could speak to another downside to doing a steak only carnivore diet, that yes, it makes it approachable. Yes, you'll get more people coming from a standard diet to try it that way, because
That's right.
if they have other conditions that are being exacerbated by standard diet, a lot of that will certainly improve by going steak only for a little bit. But then they may find that, as you're saying, they run into other issues eating that way, and suddenly they think that a carnivore diet doesn't work for them, or because they don't have a proper understanding of what a carnivore diet can be, I suppose.
Yep, exactly. And the other thing about your pH levels, there are some type of like bacterial type preparations you can actually buy to repopulate your oral microbiome. So that's another option as well. So if you've got underlying issues with certain pathogenic bacteria and other things in there, you can actually go and get one of these. Sort of just Google, there's a number of companies, and you can actually oral microbiome, and they will basically sell you an oral microbiome, and you'll be able to restore your oral health. And as long as you've got a good diet, things should go pretty well. And because different countries have different products and stuff like that, I'm not going to recommend anything because people are going to go, oh, I can't get that. Yeah, okay. Check to see what you can get in your country.
That's I didn't realize that was a thing. I mean, like, I know that your oral microbiome is going to play a role, but I didn't realize that just oral probiotics are a thing.
Mate, just don't overcook your meat, and the other thing is you can get vitamin C from putting some lemon juice. That's all you need. Lemon juice is a very good source of vitamin. You will get something like 10 times the requirement, because you're not competing with glucose at the GLUT4 receptor, so you will take in more. The other thing you can do also is try to, you've got my chromium video that I did. You can recheck that, and that will actually show you foods that you can incorporate so you can actually increase the expression of GLUT4 receptor, so you can actually pull in even more from the diet. And so with lemon juice, which you're going to get many times more, that'll resolve the issue anyway. Don't use supplements. They got too much, and you'll end up with a whole lot of oxalate in your kidneys. So you don't want that. Let alone you will deplete sulfur, and sulfur is very important for maintaining that negative charge in your body. So if you deplete your sulfur, you're going to create a whole lot of other methylation issues, detoxification issues, and whatever else. So do not supplement, please. Use lemon juice and use foods that actually increase the uptake, which is chromium-rich foods. That go and check my little video and get the information on that. And don't fucking overcook your steaks. Simple as that.
I mean, I guess if you can get meat that hasn't been frozen, it will have more.
Precisely. Yep, it will. That's true. If it's the fresher, the more content. It's like even the fruit. When you cut it off the tree, it's got more vitamin C. When you leave it on just on a bench for half an hour, it loses 50%. Then you transport it, you refrigerate it, and all these other things, it's going to lose quite a bit. So the stuff that ends up in the supermarket has got very little vitamin C. So this is why even vegans who are on a fruitarian diet are literally losing their teeth and all that, and suffering from extreme levels of scurvy. Because scurvy is not only vitamin C, it also has to do with the fat soluble vitamins, because they regulate those collagen degrading enzymes. So it's breakdown of collagen. So it's not enough. You need vitamin C for some of the actual hydroxylation of certain aminos and certain things to basically create certain types of collagen type. But even retinol does a bit of that as well. But the critical other part is those other fat soluble vitamins that regulate the proper functioning and the modeling and remodeling of all collagen tissue within the body, and that your muscle skeletal, your teeth, and all that sort of stuff. So that's why it's important. And MK4 is probably one of the most critical ones in the whole game, because MK4 MK4 is what activates all those proteins that are actually created. So retinol, vitamin C, vitamin D, all of them are involved in creating a hot transcripting, providing the cofactor type for the transcription of these enzymes, these proteins. But the activator is what Weston A. Price called the activator X. That's MK4 or vitamin K2. That's what it is. And the best form is obviously the MK4, the animal form, because everything else will convert and reduce. So there you're actually using less material. So you're actually putting your body under less, you're utilizing less machinery, less resources, you're creating less oxidative stress to do all that. Because when you do a whole lot of conversions from MK7 or all these other menaquinones to MK4, which is the final animal form that the body uses, and you go through all these metabolic pathways, all those pathways also require a lot of resources and a lot of energetic, ATP and all that, which could be used elsewhere to repair tissue and do a whole lot of other things. So you have to think, MK4, why am I putting the other stuff, all the precursors, and not putting the actual stuff that actually is what the body uses anyway, without having to transcript a whole lot of machinery to convert and different levels of conversion capacity. Obviously, a third can't even convert most of the menaquinones anyway. So it defeats the whole purpose. So it's really getting those sort of proper nutrition in to do the sort of conversions. And that is why the oral health of these people was so healthy, because they were consuming high MK4 foods, organ meats, butter, all these sort of things. And they had beautiful teeth and, perfect, their whole jaw structure and everything was just perfect, and that was well recorded. Plus, they were happy and always smiley people until they got onto the shit diet, and then they lost all their teeth, they looked depressed, and they looked all bad, so yeah. So, but also can take a bit of time. But I usually say one of the critical ones is MK4. Get it more in your diet, or you may want to supplement as a short-term option. So supplement for a couple of months, resolve the underlying issue, get the calcium to go to the proper areas, and remodel correctly in that regard. So I do want to do something on bones and bone health and at some stage, because there's a number of other steps and a number of other things that are actually into playing, sulfur and a whole lot of other things. So it's a much more complex picture, but that would take probably an hour to do. So you'll have to wait until the video comes out. You'll have to wait until Harry's Cinema turns up. Okay. Some company that has a good toothpaste. Yep, I get a fluoride free. It's all free of all this crap. It doesn't have any of those sort of the oils either, because they're dangerous. It's free of all that sort of crap. It's just basically good toothpaste.
What do you use for toothpaste, Harry? That's something that I have difficulty with finding something good. I mean,
I'll show you mine. Just give me a sec.
Sure. Okay, he's gone. We can talk about him now. Like always, I always get my 30 seconds, but he's always back sooner than I think, so I better not.
Yeah. Oh, shit. So that's the brand that I use, and it's
That's too close. Riddles Creek.
That's it.
So what's
Yeah.
what does that have and not
It's
have?
basically
Like?
it's phosphate free, fluoride free, mineral oil free, so it doesn't have any of those nasty mineral oils that that Pim's talked about in the past.
Okay, yeah. So there's no artificial like foaming agents and
No,
that kind of
no,
stuff.
exactly, none of that. It doesn't contain any of that. No artificial preservatives, synthetic chemicals, colors, fragrance, tar derivatives, sulfates, fluorides, um, animal ingredients, because it's a sort of these are vegetarian type.
Right. I use
And so
Dr. Bronner's
basically, it's
toothpaste.
got things like aloe vera. It's got all sorts of other things. So it's got nothing that's nasty that or corrosive or anything that could actually, But it's pricey a bit. That's one thing. Costs $11 this one, just the one tube. So it is not cheap. But at the same time, I just use a bit, and and it goes a long way, because you don't need a lot, especially on our diet. It's all as if you're consuming. And at the end of the day, I also basically just use flossing and a bit of that, and done for the day. So I don't go overboard. I could use more, but it is pricey, and that's why I don't. So I end up using about a third, and that's all, and doing far more flossing, and it works for me. But as I said, you basically, because if you're getting enough MK, you're not going to get any bleeding or anything like that, gum bleeding or anything like that whatsoever. So, I mean, I've been carnivore now for some time, with a few indiscretions like Bart, but it's mine's ice cream, he's just pizza. And, but at the same time, it's not an issue if you're getting, but I also do megadose on, have for some time. I have stopped in this period, and I sort of go, it's a protocol that I do on cardiovascular to slowly decalcify my arteries and all that, which is a different thing. But the side benefit is I end up with no severe sort of tarring or look, tarring isn't a massive problem if it's just a bit. It's when it becomes too much, it means that you're not getting enough MK4 in. If you get a bit, that's not an issue whatsoever, because that's sort of a natural, it goes through a bit of a cycle of a bit, and then reducing and a bit, then reducing sort of thing. But if it's severe build-up, then it's definitely, you don't have enough MK4 to regulate that properly. So it's, in that regard. And if you got, and that can also be dysregulated because of a poor oral microbiome that hasn't been resolved. And different people are in different sorts of, first you have to find out and get tested to find out exactly, things. But if you know that your pH is very low in your mouth, and also you can sense it from the taste and all that, then it's like when you have sugar, you immediately feel that it's very far more lower pH. You can feel it on your teeth. Well, if you're still getting that even on a carnivore diet, that means you've got really some bad microbiome issues in your oral area. So that needs to be resolved. And that will probably also sort out a whole lot of other potentially respiratory related issues as well. So yeah, that's probably a good thing to do, because of antibiotics and a lot of other things that people have done to themselves over years and years, you've actually killed off certain strains, and those strains no longer are in your mouth. Obviously, you need to repopulate those back in order to bring your pH back to normal sort of ranges. So, yeah. Yeah, it can be a bit of a racket. And I have to go back to my, there it is, Carlson's. I just share the screen. And that's the one there. So that was from some other order that I did. And that's the proteolytic enzymes that I also get. They can also be good for dad's got a bad knee, so they can also be good if you take them on an empty stomach of cleaning out like protein debris in different parts of the body. So if you've got joint issues or whatever, that's a pretty good proteolytic enzyme to use. Anyway, but oops, going back to this one. That I do buy some of these commercial Epic Bar type pork rinds. When I do make some of these orders, I go, oh fuck it, I'll grab a couple of those. Last time I only grabbed one because I said, because it's still a bit processed. It's not like you would do your own. Right. But without my sister here, she actually really did good pork rinds for us. I miss her pork rinds. I need my sister back from WA. And this is the one that I actually, the MK4 that I've used, which is 5 milligrams. It's a bit pricey. It's 180 capsules, so it's quite a few in there. I've got it up there, but I'm off it at the moment, and I've just been using Brie, and in about a month's time, I'll be back on it for about 3 months, and then I'll be off it again. So I go through these 3-month sort of cycles. But anyway, that's me. So give enough time for the healing, the clean out, and all these sort of things. It's step by step. I'm not in any rush. I don't want to actually create too much potential, even though the science, a lot of the newer science actually shows that when you use high doses of MK4, you do take a lot of the calcium out of those sort of areas that have been scarred and where you've got the atheroma, that's that sort of plaquing that's actually been created, and it through that period also the body will naturally take out some of that, both other cholesterol and other things out of there slowly, and actually will reduce in size and all that in the artery. I don't want to. I'm trying to balance keeping it, because calcium. What calcium does is calcium basically makes it firmer and less it becomes, the atheroma is doesn't become soft, and potentially easier to erupt. So I do it these sort of stage by stage, remove part of the calcium, allow the body to naturally take out some of this cholesterol to reduce in size, and then let it heal a bit, stabilize, heal a bit, and then do it again and go through these stages. So everybody's in a mad rush, but not me. So I do this.
An interval of like 3 months or something?
Yeah, pretty much. Plus fasting. All these sort of things are combined to clear out the debris, clear out the junk. So you're actually, I will in those periods do a bit more time restricted feeding and fasting in order to basically maximize autophagy and also the cleaning out of debris, while the calcium levels are coming down as well in the soft tissue. So it's all about strategizing, but that's specifically for my condition. Anyway, but this is the brand that I use. You can use other brands, but that's the one that I use anyway. Okay. Oops. What is this doing? Playing up. It's a bit funny. We haven't had anything from Luke today. Oh, surprising. He must be still doing his push-ups.
Yeah, I saw he was in the chat earlier, but I haven't.
I think he's done a runner.
He was making fun of me for saying that if he'd known I'd be late, he would have filled in.
Oh yeah, look, I would have sent him a link if he wanted to come on. Bowerbird. God, talking about your other, reptilian, because that's what they are, reptilian mates. Yeah, it's all about smoking and patches and, God, a bunch of druggies these people are, trolling druggies that are on my site. Oh, the people that I have to put up with. Oh, that's nasty, show. Damn.
Loads of money wasted on cigarettes over the years, I suppose, too.
They're very expensive in Australia, God, because we have really high taxes on smoking.
Yeah, it's similar here.
Yeah, it's like a whole pack, $20 or whatever, or no, it's actually more than that. What am I saying? Yeah, I'll have to ask somebody that. I know a friend of mine, he gets rollies because they're cheaper, so he does them himself.
And then everybody thinks he's smoking joints everywhere he goes.
He's in his 60s, so I don't think he really gives a fuck. Actually, David maybe, because I know he's I think he's still in his late 60s, but he could be. It could actually even be 70. Can't remember. Anyway, yes. Dentists everywhere are a bit medieval, They just haven't upgraded to waterboarding yet.
I don't like dentists. I not because of any fear of needles or anything like that. I think they often jump to interventions that are not required immediately. I mean, in Canada at least, their business sort of depends on it. They're not covered under Medicare, right? So you have to pay out of pocket to go get a second opinion, but I think it's worthwhile to do so.
Yep, exactly. Even here, it's out of pocket in Australia. Well, emergency and all the other sort of stuff isn't. It's covered by Medicare, but when it comes to dental, it's still out of pocket.
Yeah, same with dental and vision here, because your eyes and teeth aren't part of your body, apparently.
Apparently, exactly. And there's a lot of people with a lot of problems, especially in poor neighborhoods and stuff like that, that are consuming a lot of this refined carbohydrate and crap and all that. So, which is the biggest problem for a lot of people health wise. I'll let you read that while I have a bit of oxalate juice.
Probably. I haven't really noticed in the background. I just kind of tune her out, but she's in heat right now, so she's probably howling a little bit here and there.
In heat?
Yes, she is a natural female cat. She's not spayed yet. We'll see. No, I grew up with cats that weren't.
He hasn't done the intervention yet.
And Butter's not nearly as severe as some of the cats I've had in the past. She's very manageable. Just meows a little.
Yes, wants a boyfriend. or needs one.
Yep. Yep.
Look, Chris, tea does have a bit more oxalate. It actually depends on the tea. There are different varieties of tea that have different varying levels of oxalate. So it's a mixed bag. Coffee, on the other hand, if you have a coffee like an espresso or whatever from a coffee machine, you ends up having less oxalate. So if you get a commercial like where you actually roast the beans and then put them through a grinder, do them in a standard espresso type machine, that will, because you're actually getting rid of the pulp, the granules, you get mostly the water. You basically end up with less oxalate, but you end up also with less of the nutrition. On the other hand, instant coffee has more sort of the phytochemicals for sort of hermetic effects, has more, because of dry freezed, has more antioxidants, has massively more antioxidants than actually the other coffee, but also has far more oxalate. But it's not much. The oxalate isn't that much in comparison. And if you're really worried, a bit of lemon juice on your steak will basically sort that out anyway. Put enough citric acid in there to deal with that. So it's less of an issue in that regard. So if you're looking at maximizing antioxidants and other nutrients out of the instant coffee is better in that regard. I know that there's going to be a barrage of people out there that are going to basically give me stick about that, but I don't care because the science is there anyway.
Could be worth a try. I haven't had instant coffee in a long time. Certainly not since I become aware of how good coffee can taste.
Yeah, but get a good quality instant coffee. I mean, I get a good quality instant coffee. I don't get the real bad commercial stuff where there's a lot of fillers and stuff like that in. Mm-hmm. No, you want basically stuff. There's pure coffee beans that have what they do is they'll cut it up and then they will shoot it through sort of a device that actually will just basically dry it and solidify it.
Sort of freeze dry it, right?
Yeah, it's freeze dried. But sometimes they do put other things in there. So you have to read the label that it's just coffee and nothing else as the primary ingredient. There's no other stuff. So if you see a whole lot of list of other things, leave it on the shelf as an instant coffee. So that's the go-to thing. Yeah. But then again, I do like to go and buy proper coffee done in the machine because it has a sort of a very rich flavor in that regard. It's a different type. So yeah, she's right. It is, as I said, it's the difference between the two is very marginal. That's what I mean. That I primarily consume instant because it's so low. It's a non-issue. Have a bit of lemon juice, then it becomes a zero issue. Plus, you're actually getting more antioxidants and a better nutritional profile from the instant compared to the, going and getting somebody to make it for you and paying more for it because of the labor cost, and you get less nutrition. But then again, you do it because you want to go out and socialize with friends or whatever. So that's a different part, and you're willing to cough up the extra money. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure about that. If you've got any study or information, shoot it to me. I know, look, the body actually requires a bit of fluoride, actually uses a bit of fluoride for a number of biochemical processes. It doesn't need excessive amounts, but it does require a bit. So if it's a very minor amount, it may be a non-issue. So I've never seen a study that it actually says that it's got high loads from the soil. But then again, I could be completely wrong. So if you've got a really good study, shoot it to me. You know my email. I'd love to read it.
Well, would that be would fluoride be similar to potentially iodine and magnesium in transdermal absorption being better than ingesting it for people who shower in city water?
Yeah, look, I try to get my iodine levels. I try to keep them at a very good level, but at the same time, I don't go overboard. But I try to basically not overdo the tap water. I try to not, I use a better source of toothpaste, things like that. You can get filters for your shower as well. So you can get inline filters. They're very small inline filters. They're not very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So there are options there for those things. Thanks. I can see that you've... Okay. Okay, I've got the actual studies here. So that's one of the studies, and so quick levels, fluoride in milligrams. Okay. Yep. Some of them are quite low. Some of them are, levels where even here there are different methods. Can be quite low. Some on the different methods. I'd have to really look into what the method was used and all that, potential contamination and stuff like that. But yep, I will look into it. It's always interesting to look at that sort of stuff. And that's the other one. Oops. Okay. Okay, I'll have to download so people can see the different ones and all that. So, yep, I will definitely look at that. And Luke's got something for us. He's been a busy beaver. Nice one, very nice.
Really good. I saw that on the Discord earlier.
Yes, the shark, the New Zealand shark, the killer shark. Mick's had it. I better turn. Hold on. I better turn the damn comment off. God. Yes, that is damn perfect. Fantastic. Thanks, mate.
I think that might be your best work, Luke.
Yes, that is a killer Bart. Yes, those New Zealand white pointers are pretty tough hombres. Better find a spot.
I have to navigate back to the chat here.
Good drinking whiskey. telling Telling lies, good time. Oh, okay. Telling stories, you mean? Around the campfire. Yes, there's nothing like that. Knocking a few stiff ones, as they call them. People talking about their smoking habits. Yep, more of that. So, yep. I went too far up the other way. Yeah, the sort of like in Greece, it's pure Arabic type coffee. I've tried Colombian, but I've never tried Ethiopian. I probably should try Ethiopian one of these days.
Yeah, I have a little bit of Ethiopian in my cupboard right now. I prefer
Oh, you do?
Colombian though. Yeah, it's but the Ethiopian's a light roast.
Okay.
And the Colombian's a medium roast, so it's not a apples to apples comparison. But it's I mean they're both good, but I prefer the Colombian a little bit more. The flavor's a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I haven't actually. I actually covered that before, Chris. What they do is that colouring that they put it in is actually the astaxanthin. I think they get it from some sort of crab or whatever, and so a lot of the supermarket sort of stuff that they talk about, they're putting all this colouring and dye. Now there are some unscrupulous people that do that, but in Tasmania, because I know one of the guys that actually, my best mate, who knows one of the what are they called? Organic chemists that actually works in one of the companies down here in Tasmania, one of the farmed salmons, and they actually use astaxanthin. So they derive it from, I can't remember whether it was crabs or prawns or some sort of other crustacean. They derive it and then they feed it to the actual fish in the pellets, because the problem is you can't throw some of this crustacean in there because you'll have a lot of loss. So they combine it in the pellet, and the pellet tends to be a lot of seafoody stuff. I know in other parts of the world, because grains are subsidized, like in North America and a whole lot of others, they use more of that sort of stuff. In Tasmania, because it's quite cheap to get a lot of this crustaceans and all that, it's a combination. So the fatty acid profile isn't that bad with farmed stuff in Tasmania or New Zealand. Plus they're using astaxanthin, which is that red stuff that goes around the fish in that middle part, which is the thing that refreshes the fatty acids, the omega 3s, plus also is a potent antioxidant. And so when it comes to PUFA, it stabilizes. So they actually introduce that, one, because it gives the actual flesh that red color, but at the same time, it's actually putting back something which the animal would normally get by eating those foods in the wild.
I gotta move.
So you really have to know what your source is. Not all sources are the same. You know, we're lucky here because we know a lot of people in the industry, so they tell us exactly what's happening inside there. So even some of their indiscretions, we find out about them. We just don't make it so public or don't use names because we don't want to get them in trouble. Obviously, because yeah. So, but it's not as bad. But in some other parts, it's like oysters. You know, here you can have wild oysters. If I was in North America, I wouldn't touch a wild oyster because there's a lot of contamination in a lot of the seaways, a lot of the estuaries and stuff like that. So there's potential for some sort of nasty bacteria could kill me. People have died in the US by having raw oysters. So, yes, got to be very, very careful in that regard. Now, let me move through that. Okay, so that's clear.
I think I've probably got 5 or 10 minutes left in me.
Yep, that's okay. Yeah, exactly. So you really have to know your sources. So New Zealand, Australia is specifically Southern Australia. Yep. I don't know about other parts of Australia because their access for the material could be more expensive, so they may go for the less quality. And some parts of Europe, you can't access some of the crustaceans because there's so much contamination around their coastlines that it's really hard to get that sort of stuff. So they go for the more traditional pellets. So these are the sort of differences in certain areas. So you really have to know what the producer is doing and what they're using and all that. So, yeah, they're fine. They're fine as well.
Lucky to have access to decent quality farmed fish. I don't trust the farm fish around here at all.
Yeah. Look, the majority of mine tends to be either Tasmanian, New Zealand, or from Southern American, which is all wild caught, or from the Antarctic type region, and it's all wild caught, and that's the sort of stuff that I primarily get. It's all snap frozen, wild caught from those sort of areas, and so that I trust because it's quite good. But the problem is there's only so much quantity, and it's really hard in many parts of the world to get it. Simple as that. So can be an issue for a lot of people. I'm putting your comments up, mate. Not ignoring you. And take off your blinkers.
These people are just getting started with their evenings from the sounds of these
comments. I know. It's it's a full-on entertainment session.
Here I am on my way to bed. I must really be a grandpa.
These people can really party.
I mean, you don't sing the best part of waking up as fappy in your butt as a lullaby. You say that to get the party started, right?
Yeah, all the wisdom comes from Jared. All the comedy comes from me. You got to get some comedy.
I'll take it.
Take it. Never say no. You won't get that again from this crowd. Trying to see where anything I could pick up. Nope, not that. Okay, nothing that I've really missed question-wise, which looks okay. I've sort of scrolled all the way up. Okay, so haven't done too bad in that regard. Yeah, it is daytime. It's 12 minutes past 1 p.m., so midday. So right after this, which is about 45 minutes from now, I will be going out and doing a walk in the sun, trying to get a bit of vitamin D and get some of those beautiful UV rays into me. And then I've actually changed it. I used to call it the Euro live stream, and I've actually changed it and called it now the Eurasian live stream. And I've come back a couple of hours. So now I take in the entire Eurasian continent within one day. So nobody's actually, even in New Zealand, for instance, it'll start at sort of 6. In New Zealand, it's 8 o'clock, which means 11 o'clock at night in New Zealand. And
it's 5 a.m. for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. That's true. But it's primarily for that Eurasian type thing because I've got a few people in India that come on, a few people in the UK, more people in the UK, obviously. Some people in other parts of Asia that pop on, and I had to shift to that sort of time to be able to grab all these people in the sort of feed. So that's why I renamed it the Eurasian sort of thing and tried to to cater for more people within that, where this morning one, or this one that I do, is primarily, to capture all the North American crowd and a few people in Australasia and stuff like that. Because still my biggest subscription base is Australia. My second biggest is the US. My third biggest is, what's my third big? Canada, actually. And then it's small amounts from everywhere else in that regard. So that's the sort of the composition of the subscription base in that regard. So what these two time slots do, they cater heavily for the Australasian crowd, because it's still in the time slot where they're not sleeping 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning. Australian Eastern Standard Time is still, people around. So the two time slots cater very well for that crowd, plus the other time zones where I've got followers and all that. And luckily this month I will have more hours, because there's only 4 weeks in this month, 4 weekends, and not 5 like last month. So I'll be able to do 2 Euro-Asian sort of, so there'll be not one next week, but the week after, and it'll be the same time. So now I've stabilized in these sort of time slots. So 10:30 for one of them, Australian Eastern Standard Time, the other one every second week. So it'll be every second week, which is, unless we have a week where there's 5, which really mucks it up, because I just don't have enough. There's only so many hours within StreamYard that I can use for free. And so I'm sort of caught in that sort of wedge in that regard.
I haven't had whiskey in a long time. I think we touched on that last week. I was saying that it would be nice to have a little drink once in a while to mark an occasion. Sometimes I feel like I'm too restrictive with it, but I can't find anything that agrees with me.
Is this an invitation, Shell? To your Canadian friends?
I mean, if she has fine Canadian Crown Royal, then
you'll turn up.
It must be a special occasion.
What happens in Sydney stays in Sydney. Fapnado. Get your hands off that. These young boys. Oh, stories. Tell us more. Take off your blinkers. Tell us more about your indiscretions in your younger years in Sydney. We're all ears, especially this crowd. God almighty, seriously, I've got a gallon of Crown Royal. Fucking hell. Or Royal.
She's saying Royal Crown, but I assume she means Crown Royal.
Crown Royal, it must be, yeah. Come on down, Jared. Yes, I can't even get out of the country.
Oh yeah, so no, I guess I wouldn't be able to because of the border anyway. I have to take my milk tunnel.
What exactly? He'll use the milk tunnel. He'll get there somehow. That bad? God almighty. I thought my stories were bad. No, we've heard plenty of stories. Believe me. let's talk about DMT.
What about it?
Tell us more, Fapnado. Tell us more. We're all ears.
Fapnados and I have talked DMT a little bit.
Yep. Super fuzzy. I'm super fuzzy. Yep.
I need to make myself that carnivore milk and vodka or something. Drink honey, milk, and vodka, maybe.
That's it. That's a good combo, actually.
Well, there's that to it. I haven't heard that acronym before, but that seems appropriate.
Yes, very appropriate.
Sarah Pugh talks a little bit about DMT. I've seen she posts on Instagram once in a while about the medical applications for psychedelics.
Oh, look, I know people have used them. Let's not forget a lot of tribal societies used a lot of psychedelic type things.
Yeah, just about every ancient culture you can point to had some form of psychedelic ritual in
them. Yeah, exactly. I think if you're on a clean diet that is not going to create a whole lot of issues, it's probably less of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that if you're not on a clean diet, it could be a big problem, push that sort of imbalance or, issues within some people, especially that are more susceptible. So but yeah, it's sort of it's a hard one to really get into in a conversation, especially with YouTube's policies and all that sort of stuff. So I have to be careful what I say and how I say it in that regard. But look, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it wasn't refined. It was they used to chew a lot of the actual leaves, the cocoa leaves. It's a bit like what they do in the Horn of Africa. They chew that other plant as well. So it's a very similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of traditions, a lot of societies, even in Greece in different parts. Yeah, had to go to the next level, didn't you? You can't help yourself. You have to go to the next level. Yes, good cocoa leaf. Good Colombian.
He's in the same time zone as me.
Okay.
Atlantic time. 20 past midnight.
There you go.
Same time zone as Luke too.
Yeah. I think they're both. Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's Brazil. It's the same time slot with you guys that part. So it sort of fits quite well, and it sort of stops at that 12 mark, and it sort of gets both the Australasian crowd and the North American crowd at the same time, because they actually are a pretty good combination crowd. I sort of like the sort of banter. It's a different style. I get a really good different style when I've got those parts,
mm-hmm.
and then it's sort of like that sort of English speaking type and the humor, and then when I do the Eurasian, I get a sort of a very mixed type of crowd from a whole lot of different backgrounds and cultures. I think there's a couple, one or two people from Indonesia as well. So there's a few different backgrounds, and that's completely a different type of. It's probably less less comical in that regard compared to this one. This
I
one,
need to stop reading the comments that you aren't putting on screen. My reactions might seem inappropriate, like I'm laughing at what you're saying.
and I'll just troll through them. I'm doing the trolling now. Somebody's really enjoying themselves. Glug, 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 glug. And getting overexcited. And a few going. Yeah, no, mate. It's a special ancient pouch.
I'm partly just laughing at that.
Really crusty. Oh, really crusty.
So graphic.
Richard, you're putting a price on it as well? Blah, 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 blah. I need that puppet of Bart's.
Bart's little stinger there, yeah.
Oh, that's going really low.
You're gonna get Harry kicked off YouTube now.
I won't even mention the name. Deep breaths, you know. We don't want you passing out yet. Yeah, it doesn't take long, you know. I blame Jared.
Slowly?
I blame Jared of Fapnado. I can't blame anyone else.
Hey,
I can't blame
be the
myself.
one who brings wisdom and also is responsible for the conversation devolving into comedy now.
Precisely.
You take credit for the comedy.
I'm taking credit only for parts of the comedy. Selective parts. Yeah, it's going downhill rapidly. They all know that they all know that they all know that's hey, superb to you. You're all trolled out, eh? Thank the fuck for that.
You skipped over Wim Hof. Wim Hof's good. Daniel.
Yes, very much.
I'm not sure how much stock I put in the studies that people do about Wim Hof, but it's an effective method for stress control.
Deep breaths.
Different things.
Deep breaths. We don't want you passing out yet.
Shell needs to do a round of Wim Hof breathing right now. I think that's what Daniel meant.
Put the alcohol down, Shell. And do those deep breaths.
There better still be a gallon of Crown Royal there. You better not be that far into it. That's right.
I'll have to get one of those. Exactly. I'll have to get one of those British hats, black hat with a white sign on a perv.
Commodore perv.
Where's that pizza-loving, alcohol-drinking Kiwi when you need him to get a few extra laughs? He's probably out there rowing at the moment and taking photos and saying to Pim, "Can you row a bit more?"
It does look like a nice area for kayaking, though, from what he
Yeah,
posts.
it is a really nice area. We've got a few areas like that down in Tassie, which are very similar. There's a lot of kayaking down here as well. So, yeah, it's nice.
Right.
I thought he was going to be on Discord tomorrow. That's what he said. He's already on it, is he?
I don't know. Let me look.
Don't know. Neither do I.
No. Necrokitty and Luke here both are, though.
Okay. Oh, well, we had a bit of a good run there. Well, dead American. Yep. Nothing like a good Texan girl. You're pried off my cold, dead American hands. Oh, and Pim's on the Discord there. Yep. Fair enough. See what happens with these Texans once they have a few too many drinks. They become dangerous.
Is she
Don't
Texas?
forget.
I think she's Eastern time.
Don't forget when you go down south, take the machine gun.
Shotgun.
That's it.
Machine gun.
You got to protect your milk somehow. Sure, we'll drink anything.
I've heard of some odd rural places,
especially if you put a bit of alcohol, as you said, you're going to be doing a milk alcohol combo. God Almighty!
Especially if you're passing through a dry county with said alcohol.
You're at great risk, mate.
There you go. She said she's not Texan. That's what I thought. Texas is central.
Oh, she's not. Okay. I thought she was.
So Texas would be 2 hours behind me.
Okay. Where are you from? Tell me.
I know she's in the Eastern.
Oh,
Eastern
what am I saying?
time.
Necro Kitty's actually from Texas. That's right.
Yeah, Necro is from Texas.
Yeah.
Ohio.
Sorry. Mix up. God, I need to work out some comedy about Ohioans. I need to find something else out. More information. I don't have enough. There's always next week.
I've never been to Ohio.
Isn't
Except to drink a gallon of Crown Royal with Shell, apparently.
It's a good reason to go down there.
Ohioan.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. After you've had a gallon of booze, it's perfect. You've done better than I would have done. Oh, you're an Appalachian baby. Gotcha.
I'm in New Brunswick at the other end of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yes, sort of because it's a mountainous area, so yes. So you're an American hillbilly, I'm a Greek hillbilly from the west coast of Greece. Yep, gotcha. See, we've got so much in common. She needs to share it with somebody the alcohol.
I appreciate that Shell has been courting me for a drink for like 30 minutes. Bring my
milk. Is that 3 gallons? You mean?
Drinky poos. That sounds like a Trailer Park Boys reference. Bring my milk.
Yes,
I will bring my milk.
Okay, so it's a saying that I don't know. I haven't heard it. What does it mean?
Drinky poos. It's just what one of the characters on Trailer Park Boys calls a drink. He's
okay.
The alcoholic park manager, security guy. Park police officer, Jim Leahy.
Bring your milk. It's like a shotgun statement. Don't forget to bring your milk.
My white sky.
That's
Luke's
it.
not here.
See you, Richard.
Good night.
Yeah, see you, mate. I don't mind you hijacking me, Shell, anytime. Actually, that came out the wrong way.
What about lowjacking?
Oh, I'm going to get into trouble.
Of whiskey?
I think so. These Appalachian girls, they,
Just
8
4
ounce.
doubles?
It's a 4 shot. It's a quad shot.
I would just vomit.
Well, all the questions have stopped.
Okay, well, I think...
Anyway, I think we're about to finish anyway. So thanks for having you on here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me as always.
Do appreciate
Sorry
it.
that I was not here for the very start, but I was here. I made it. I was not unreliable. I heard you call me unreliable. I was.
Did I?
Yeah, you were joking.
I take that back.
You commented asking where I was. And you said bloody young people.
We'll let him go, and then we'll bag him after. Take off your blinkers. Get with a metric system, you kids.
Seriously though, metric system.
It'd make life easier. I have to do all these bloody conversions each time I'm on the web. Yes, but I doubt that will be happening with 330 million people in the US that having to go back, be rescored in the metric system. Yes, it'd be a bit too hard. You'd definitely have a revolution then. The metric revolution, it would be called.
Fat Nato says he just brought tequila. He should have heard what Jared said before. No. You're all sworn to secrecy, the things that I say when Harry's not in front of his camera during the live streams.
That's it. Anything goes. The biggest problem, I then have to endure my whole self, listening to my whole self going right through to actually pick up on those little pointers. It's tiresome to listening to yourself.
Can't handle the metric system. Yeah. Base 10s are pretty complicated, I'll give you that. How many feet are in a mile again? That's always the example I use because nobody can ever tell me.
Well, what is it? Point, you convert it to point 3048. So is the conversion between feet and meters. Mile, I'm not sure.
I know mile to kilometers.
And then
1.6.
Yeah, and then an inch is 2.54 centimeters. So I do know a bit of this because some of the old surveys, some of the old plans and all that are still in links in inches and feet, and some of the old metric systems that they used in the past before they went on to the metric system. And so when you're trying to put old surveys and looking at old surveys, sometimes you have to convert them for a specific job or whatever, or to do what is when you do sort of like drafting work for surveyors, surveyors do, and they may provide you with some information. Then you have to sort of use old surveys to connect some stuff, and it's called apportioning and proportioning. So adjustments. Yes. So we sometimes, a lot of that stuff is in old systems, in old, it's not in metric, it's, it's in links, or it's in feet and inches and stuff like that. So I tend to have to convert all this.
It's 5,280 feet in a mile. I just looked it up.
What's all that about? Band?
Someone suggested that he troll the Discord with that tequila.
Oh, God. Yes. Hey, as long as it's pizza and beer, you can get away with it. Getting banned is a rite of passage.
Raise your hand if you were banned by Frank Serpanos.
Oh, you were you?
Yeah, a couple of times. I am permanently now, but yeah.
He's never banned me. That's one thing he hasn't done. But he just doesn't.
He banned me, and then I messaged him, and he unbanned me, and then he banned me again after I apparently reoffended. I mentioned the name Paul Saladino.
Okay. That was it.
I was silly. Yeah.
God Almighty.
I wasn't even explicitly praising him.
That's a bit childish anyway. So yeah.
But it is like a rite of passage though for a lot of Bart's community.
Oh, to be banned by Frankie.
Yeah.
God, I haven't achieved that. What have I done wrong? I probably have too much information on him. Anyway, it has been wonderful enjoying your company. But I've had enough of these damn trolls. These bigoted trolls, And like everything, it all has to come to a crying end. You can go and cry on your bottle. Suck your bottle.
At least there's milk in the bottle.
Not in shells. Not in shells.
Won't spill.
Yeah, exactly. You could.
Maybe just a sippy cup.
Yeah, well, you could try different combinations, or you could get one of those. Have you seen those long shooters? The type that you sort of lift up like that. You could get those long type shooter type things. Put some alcohol in there and some raw milk, and you could present a new style of milk drinking from Canada next week. What do you think? What do you think, mate? New style?
You mean like a beer bong, like with the funnel with the tube?
Or something like that?
Just only drinking my milk that way on stream.
I'm on my milk. Oh, can you imagine?
I'm just gonna get a beer helmet.
Mum, I'm on my milk. Somebody's going to get the idea of creating something like that with a milk type thing for their kid.
The kid's going to be well versed with college.
Oh yeah, they'll be champs when it comes to that sort of stuff. It's good preparation. You've got to prepare them from very early age. There you go. That definitely will get me into trouble. Milk. We're talking about milk.
All right. Oh.
Crying like
So high,
Yes.
high on booze, or you have weed too, Shell? You're really trying to bait me to Ohio, are you?
Yes, I appreciated the company of all of you. Thanks, guys, for being here. Thanks, Jared, as well. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Harry.
We have to get a few laughs in next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I always aim for the first half of the stream because I'm a little bit more alive because it's earlier in the evening still.
Yes, maybe you should get a few of those cocoa leaves or something like that just to give you a bit of a boost.
That could help. I could drink coffee if I want to stay up for another like 2 hours
Oh,
after the
God.
stream ends.
You don't want to do that. No.
Not really.
Nothing extreme like that. We do want you getting your sleep quality. You need it, Grandpa. It's we don't want to basically deprive you of sufficient sleep.
I've aged so gracefully because I've been following the opinions of Harry Serpanos and his infinite wisdom.
You're fucked.
His infinite comedy. I'm the wise
You're
one.
fucked in the long run. Anyway, mate, thanks. I appreciate it for having you on.
Shall the good stuff, not that shake.
Yes, my favorite troll. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. It's nothing like having an Aussie bigot troll thanking me. That's good. We're making progress. Anyway, I'm tied up because I'm extending my time and I won't have enough time in the following weeks. So I have to be a bit more severe, unfortunately. Sorry. I would like to laugh a bit longer with you guys and joke. But, Grandpa Jared needs to get his sleep.
I do.
And I have to prepare for the next one after. Yes. Tell us more next week. I look forward to it.
I was just going to say I could try one of your Euro live streams sometime when I'm more conversational earlier in the day, but you switched it to 5 a.m. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't.
Yeah, look, I know. I'm trying to get that whole area in because it actually knocks. It's so late because it's always on a Monday. The next day it's a working day, and so people in Australasia, in other parts, are always bitching and moaning and say, look, you never do something for our time zone, and right. It's so late, and I have to get to sleep because I've got work the next day, and so that's what I end up getting. And I'm going, okay, I'll bring it back a bit in that regard. So if I went, let me just see, New Zealand is 6. There's 8. It's 11. So if we pushed an hour, that would basically bring it to. So that would pop it into basically 12, which is still not that late. But that would actually put you in about 6:30, wouldn't it, in the morning? So
yeah,
it's within reason.
Yeah, we could do it sometime maybe.
No, what I mean is that if I shifted it an hour forward, the next one, I'll try it actually next to see how that works and whether it pulls in a few extra people. So I'm playing around with these numbers at the moment, and then we'll do a whole lot of comparisons, and then you're welcome. And then sort of try and see how it actually sort of flows in that regard. Mm-hmm. So it may work, may not. As I said, my Australasian crowd will follow me everywhere.
Is that a
will
threat?
Troll me.
Watch out for the later stream, Harry.
I'm scared. Anyway, mate, I better let you go. You need to get your beauty sleep.
Sure do. You don't say this. Don't say this. Good looking at my age by skipping.
That's it.
That
Exactly.
part.
Anyway, mate, see you, and thanks again for being on today, and I will see you next week. Take care.
Okay, Harry. Have a good week.
Yep. See you, mate. Well, it's back to me. Missed me? No? Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it all up. So it's 3 hours and 20 minutes. And so I need to sort of contain the amount of time for my Euro Asian ones that I'll be doing this week and next week, the week after. So, but I will change it to 1 hour back and sort of try and pick up some of the North American crowd on the Eastern. You just have to get up very early. So take care. Thanks for being on. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed today's stream. It really went well. Thanks, for your participation and your contributions to the comedy at the end of this stream. Appreciate it. Take care, guys. See yous. Have a nice remaining weekend, and I hope you have a great week next week. See yous.